right, here we go. Who can tell me, for a point, what the x-intercept is of a graph? X-intercept. Lexi?
Whatever points touch the x.
Where it touches the x-axis. Good, take a point. So, crosses the x-axis. And let's add that note in there since we didn't do that yesterday. Who can tell me what the y-intercept is? Grant.
It's where it crosses the line.
Fantastic, take a point. Blessings. Alright, so remember you can write it two ways. You can write it as a coordinate. So this one was -3, 0. Or you can write it in set notation where you write both of them. Can anybody tell me what the domain is of this function?
It would be -3 at negative set.
Could we get any x value though? If we plug in, I mean, we could plug in anything, right? And get any x. So domain would be all real numbers. What about y? What does y have to be greater than? Do any of our y values go below -2 down here?
No.
So what does it have to be greater than?
Negative.
-2. Has to be greater than or equal to -2. So your range depends on the x. You would look at your graph to determine that. Does everyone understand? Fantastic. All right, line of symmetry. What is the line of symmetry? I'm sorry, I just got water all over myself somehow. What's the line of symmetry? Jared, tell me what the line of symmetry is. It cuts the graph in half. Fantastic. Take a point. Where does the line of symmetry cross? Which axis? The x-axis. Fantastic. Does everybody understand that one? Okay. Let's look at our positive and negative parts of the graph. So when is a graph positive?
When it's above the y-axis.
No.
When it's above the x.
When it's above the x-axis, because it can't be above the y-axis. When is it negative?
When it's below the x-axis.
Fantastic. So if I put let's do it on this one. Okay, on increasing and decreasing, how do you read your graph on increasing and decreasing?
Left to right.
Left to right, good, take a point. You always read it from left to right, correct? So, if it's falling down the hill, it's doing what? Decreasing. And if it's going up the hill, it's doing what?
Increasing.
Fantastic. So, on what y values is this graph increasing? On what y values is this graph increasing? Just the y. So, is it increasing right here at 4? What about at or -4 rather? What about at -3? What about at -2? What about at -1? What about at 4 right here? So it's increasing here. What about the x values? Where is it increasing on the x-axis? -2 to -2.5 to what? To +2. So if we wanted to write that, and then this is something that you need to know, it's called set notation. So the domain for increasing, x is greater than or equal to -2.5, but it's less than or equal to 2. So this is called interval notation, not set notation, interval notation. It's because it's going from this interval to the other interval, and it looks like a compound inequality, right? So it's saying that x is in between these two numbers. Now, what about the y value? The domain for increasing right here, the range for increasing would be from what? Y would be between what? -4 and? Good. So the range for increasing you would write your y like this, and it's less than or equal to 4, but greater than or equal to negative 4. So you need to be able to look at a graph and pick those points out. Does everybody understand? Yes, no, maybe so. All right. Why are you answering?
Because he's allowed to.
Moral support, thanks. Alright, so on the last Flappy, it was relative minimum and relative maximum, right? So minimum is the lowest point on the graph. Maximum is the highest point on the graph. And it has nothing to do with the end and where it goes. It depends on the curve, the actual function. So a minimum is the lowest point, which would be right here. The maximum would be over here. Bless you. So minimum is down here, maximum is up here. Now extrema, which is the word in the middle, right? Extrema is the end behavior. So what do you think that means for this graph? What is happening here? Is y getting smaller or bigger as it goes down? Y gets smaller. So y values get smaller. And what's the end behavior over here? What's happening? Y values are increasing. Does anybody have any questions? Are you sure? Alright, if I don't draw this, I just want you to watch. If I gave you a graph, okay? And it looked like this. And then it did this, and then it did this, and then it did this, and then it did this. And I told you that my x-axis was time, and my y-axis was miles. Could you come up for me, could you come up with, ham sandwich, could you come up with a story for me based on this graph? Maybe? Okay, so imagine that you're a person, and you start right here. What could we call this point where we're starting? Home, okay? So we start at home, and what do? So say this was 5 minutes, and this was a half a mile, and then we chilled. We're going to say this is 10 minutes, this is 15 minutes, this is 20 minutes, and then this is, that's a half mile, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's 1 mile. What did they do? So what did we do from here to here? We walked a half a mile, and then what did we do from 5 to 10 minutes? We sat down and relaxed, right? And then what did we do from 10 to like 12 minutes? Did we walk or did we run?
You did a slight jog.
We did a slight jog. We went real fast to go a half mile in 2 minutes. And then what did we do there?
We took another break.
We took another break. For how long did we take this break, do you think?
3 minutes.
Okay, and then what did we do from here?
Then we just continued.
We just kept walking. So on your test, there are going to be 2 questions where you have to come up with a scenario. It can be any scenario that you want in the whole world. It could be about bunnies. It could be about turtles. It could be about fish. It could be about whatever you want it to be about. Does everybody understand? Where is your maze? Work on that. Get off your phone. Not you. Alright, does anybody have any questions? Are you ready for your study guide?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now I want you to get the first page done. please. First page. It's multiple choice.